Here, Charlie.
Yes.
The wife asked me to put ketchup on the shopping list. Now I
Mm.
can't read a thing.
Go on.
That's it.
Terrible.
Pull out a blank piece of paper and write down all the things that are in my head. It's that self-awareness of where you're at. Tune in with yourself. So never struggle on your own.
Technical healing.
This week we were joined by the University of Bristol Technical Oracle, Allison McRitchie, who is the Staff Development Officer. What did you think of the interview, Charlie?
Yeah, it was a really, really lovely conversation. Just a sort of open, honest conversation about Alison's personal and professional experiences. We sort of touch on all aspects of mental health, resilience, how to help ourselves, particularly in this current climate, and also Alison's influence on my career, so the way that she's actually helped me. And the tools and tricks that she's sort of given me as well to sort of help me progress my career at the University of Bristol.
Yeah, it really comes across what a lovely and positive person she is. There's only one thing left to do and introduce Allison McRitchie. Thank you very much for joining us, Allison.
Oh, thank you. It's really nice to be asked.
If we could start by just asking you, how did you end up working at the University of Bristol?
Well, there's a kind of short answer and a long answer, isn't there, with any of these things, and especially around career, I think. The short answer is that I was working at university. I'd gone up there to work for a couple of years in staff development, and I had moved up from the southwest, but I kind of knew at some point I'd want to come back down again. And I'd sort of mentioned to colleagues that I worked with, but I hadn't actively started looking for a job. But someone pointed out the role at Bristol, and there was just something about it that kind of really resonated with me. And it was originally a contract job, and it was around technical apprentices and also working with technical staff. And it was mostly because it took me back to the start of my career, because I think not many people realise that actually when I left school at 17, I went to work in an entry-level role in agricultural research. And they didn't have roles like technicians there. You were kind of, I was at the time an assistant scientific officer. So we assisted researchers, but we did all the technical kind of support stuff as well, like autoclaving and making up inoculums and things like that, because I did pathology testing at the time. So there was something about the role at Bristol that really called to me, because it wasn't a straight staff development role. It had a really good project orientation, but I also liked the subjects, because I could sort of align with that, having been kind of roles, and also having gone straight to work from leaving school, which was an enormous shock, because also I had to move away from home to do it. Yeah. So that's the reason. I mean, since then, that's 7 years ago, and since then the role has changed and morphed. You know, the contract's over into a more permanent role, but I hang on very much to the remit around technical, because it matters an enormous amount to me. So I kind of knew when I saw the job, I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And actually, I can't believe how lucky I was that I got like the first job I went for, coming back down to live down here. So
you're doing a very good job, Alison, anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, from one technician, to another.
Thank you very much. That's really good to hear. Thank you.
No worries. So just moving on to the next question, Alison. It's a bit of a broad one, but what would be your proudest achievements? This can be personal or professional, really.
I think I kind of put it into sorts of areas. I mean, I'm not kind of great at sort of bigging myself up about stuff, but But I think, there are some things I really am proud of. I mean, one of them was just really to some people. I completed the Bristol half marathon a few years ago,
Yeah.
but I did it after a period of having been quite unwell. For me, that was like a really big milestone, and I
definitely.
crossed the line, funnily enough, with somebody that I knew through work. We'd bumped into each other on the way, and oh my God, I practically fell over as I crossed it, because that was a big thing. I really had to push hard to do that.
It's a tough race, really tough race, the Bristol Half, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, you look at it and think, "I'll be all right."
No, it's very. I mean, I can speak from personal experience as well. It's
Yeah.
really tough. Yeah, it's the portway, isn't it? You can see one
Yeah.
end and then you got to come back down it. So,
But the great thing
kudos.
about that, I remember running up one way up towards Shirehampton, and the really fast runners were coming the other way.
Yeah,
They were shouting encouragement at us,
it's nice. Yeah,
passing drinks across. And I remember the kind of camaraderie of it. And actually, even as I came round the centre and people were shouting out my number, who didn't know me, but they were
that's
obviously
lovely.
cheering
Yeah.
everybody on. Either that, or I looked like I really needed them to cross the line.
Either way, it's fine, isn't it? It's it gets you over the finish line, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's felt like a proud achievement just because of the circumstances of the time. And
Yeah.
so those kind of things in my own life. But I think also I can think about work and the kind of work that I do. One of the reasons that I love being involved in learning and development and working with people, especially working individually with people,
Yeah.
is that it's always hard to kind of quantify the feeling that you get sometimes when you see someone else flourish through what I can do with them, the help or the steer that I give them. And it's not about me teaching them anything. Sometimes it's just about unlocking something they've got themselves,
Yeah.
but they don't know how to access it. And that's something I can look back. There's probably about a handful of times when I've had really proud moments of seeing someone else grow. And that's been a really good thing to have. So
Sort of like the light bulb moment, isn't it? When you see the sort of switch going.
totally, yeah. Someone, another facilitator, on a really regular basis, and we had a chat one day about why each of us did the job. And I do remember her saying to me, "I do it for the penny drop moments. Do it for those moments when you switch the light bulb on, when you hear the clonk." So,
It's very, very rewarding, isn't it? I mean, you've done it with me, really. Actually, I remember a course that was cancelled, and you invited me over to I think it was the Hawthorns for just a cup of coffee, because I think I was the only one that was left on it, or it was something like along those lines. And it was to do with managing your time and sort of you went through Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I ended up buying that book, and I live by it now. Yeah, it's in my office. So even stuff like that is just super benefit, or it has been to me, because that was sort of when I was starting my career at the university as well. So
yeah.
I can imagine it's quite a rewarding job.
With staff development, I think one of the things, and anything in learning development, is the job changes all the time, and it changes because you're working with different people and different groups, and the dynamics are different, and also what people take from it is very different. So I think those moments for particular people have stood out as kind of like, it doesn't feel right to say proud achievements, but certainly times when I've had pride in what I do personally, professionally.
Great. Thank you, Alison. Our next question, I think this is a really difficult question to answer on the spot, but I hope you can come up with something.
Okay.
What's been your funniest moment in your job?
I can tell you that most of the funny moments, or actually probably more cringy sometimes, is when live in front of a group of people, I've stuck my foot in my mouth for something. I've come out with just the wrong thing, or it's and there's many times I've kind of seen the funny side of it. Could the floor swallow me up? Or sometimes when I'm doing things with groups and you're getting them to call things out, and I'm writing on a board, because when you're doing something like that, I'm actually thinking of the next thing that I'm going to ask. So I'm kind of recording it, or I'm listening to what the person's saying, and often I end up writing the wrong word down. because it's what I'm thinking or they're saying, not what they did say. So some of those have been really totally the wrong words. So it's things like that normally that I think of. I mean, I think some of the laughs also come from some of the great people that I get a chance to work with closely. I think of some of the, some of the technical managers that I work with really closely on a regular basis, or, some of, going to things like the technicians conference and bumping into loads of people that I know. They've good fun and good laughs as well. So there's laughs to be had all over the place in work, normally. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alison. So you know me, Bristolian through and through. I keep banging the drum about it. It's my favourite place. Do you have a favourite place in Bristol at all?
I do. I do. I mean, I have actually lived in Bristol because I'm a Scot originally. I know I don't sound like it, but I am. I have been here for about like 30 odd years.
So you're an honorary Bristolian then?
I am. Thank you. I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, you can have it.
Thank you. The one thing that I've always loved is the suspension bridge. I live in Clevedon now. I have done for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
But before COVID, obviously, I was driving in every day, and I'd drive across the suspension bridge every day. And it's never lost its fascination for me.
It's beautiful,
it's
isn't it?
never stopped being a marvel. And every time I cross it, I still kind of have that, I don't know, some really lovely feeling about it.
It is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just, on a clear day, on a foggy day, on a wet day, it's great. And that view when you come over from, like the Clevedon side, and you see Clifton, and you see the city ground.
It's an incredible bridge, isn't it? And to be the first, it was the first suspension bridge built in the UK, was it, or was it the world? Or
I don't. Yeah,
I think it's got some status like that. So it is. Yeah, it's an incredible bridge, isn't it? And it just looks.
It is.
I mean, it's a really nice place.
First times I crossed it when I first came to Bristol. Actually, when I came to visit Bristol before I moved here, I actually had a great fear of heights at the time, and I think I sort of just focused on the tower at the opposite side and almost ran across. And it took me a long time to be able to amble over it and look over the side. But I think the kind of fascination with it's never been lost for me. Yeah.
No, agreed. I can think I can.
There's that pub, isn't there, that it's great for a summer's day. You sit in the garden and look directly at the bridge.
Oh,
is it the White Horse or the Avon Gorge Hotel? Is one of those, isn't it, along there?
Avon Gorge does, yeah.
Yeah, and you sit out the back and
yeah, and it is one of those ones when you go, some views as you come into Bristol and you see it in the distance, or it's those landmarks. It's kind of, for me, it's a bit like, because I lived in Edinburgh for a few years, and in Edinburgh there's lots of very familiar sites that are great kind of grounding points. So you generally work out where you are by where the castle is, or Arthur's Seat and things like that. Well, it's a bit like Bristol's equivalent for me. That and the tower on Brandon Hill, that would be the two things. Yeah.
Both of these are, aren't they? Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Brilliant. Alison, obviously our podcast is sort of based around mental health and well-being, really. So could you give us an expert theory maybe on sort of mental health and well-being from your field of study, sort of in your current role potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of back away from the word expert maybe on this.
Sorry, not
I wouldn't see myself as an expert, but I've certainly. I mean, I suppose in working in the areas that I do, particularly working in learning and development, it's not necessarily a primary kind of focus. I've never kind of done anything directly that has said mental health attached to it. But I think there are areas that I work in, like assertiveness, for example, which can have an impact for somebody on their general well-being, their resilience, those kind of things. So I think resilience building particularly has been an area that I have looked into, done work on, but often as a kind of side to a lot of other areas that I work in. So, I mean, if I go theory-wise, then I'm going to go back to something that that was mentioned earlier, Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
I think there's something which is in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People that, for me, I've included in a lot of workshops that I've done, the work that I've done with individuals, but also that I've used myself. And it's a very simple diagram that he uses called circles of influence. Because one of the things he says in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is that each of us have a sphere of influence. You know, whatever role you have, whatever it is you do, or where you are in life, there are ways that you can influence your own being. You know, there's ways that you can influence your outcomes, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And it's based on this simple idea of two circles. You've got an outer circle, which is your circle of concern, and the inner circle is your circle of influence. And, you know, I look at things like, you know, what's happening currently and the COVID situation. You know, there's a lot in that can sit in our circles of concern. There's a lot in the current circumstances that if we let it, we can just get overwhelmed by it.
Sure.
And it can feel too big and too much and out of control, those kind of things. And circles of influence is all about looking at concerns and thinking, how can I impact on those differently? What can I do something about it? Can I do something about all of it? Can I do something about a little bit of it? Can I change it? You know, can I change anything about it and influence it at all? And, you know, obviously he's talking there about being a positive influencer and changing things from that point of view. And it's something which I come back to time and time again, and I've used with other people as well. You know, something like I can feel sometimes if I'm overwhelmed with work, because I work on a lot of different strands of work. And, you know, sometimes you just get to that point where the inbox is overflowing and I've got lots of things that I can't seem to progress particularly well. And I recognise that tipping point in myself. It's what I personally call the I can't see the wood for the trees point. And I do use Covey at that point. I will tend to just go off. I'll usually take myself away for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, go have a cup of tea. But the main thing is not to think about any of it for that time. Have a clear head moment. Going out for a walk is one of the best things around the block, you know.
Definitely, yeah.
Go look at trees and things.
Yeah.
And then come back, pull out a blank piece of paper and write down all the things that are in my head that are outstanding. Anything that I think, I won't look at the to-do list, I'll actually just write it down.
Yeah.
And then I'll look at those things and I'll go, okay, what am I going to do first? What can I pick up and do first? Because I can only do one job at a time. Which is going to be first? Which one's second? And I call it a regrouping exercise. And I think that helps me a lot with those kind of things. So I think it's a theory which doesn't look like it's got anything to do with mental health. And probably isn't even written that way by Covey, but that kind of thing about looking at what you can kind of control or do things about can be immensely good for mental health. It can be good for your resilience as well.
Yeah.
You know, feeling like I could change something. I'd kind of go with that. I think
No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think resilience is definitely something that's not. It's sort of it's quite underrated, isn't it? Really, it's sort of building a bit of inner resilience.
Yeah, it's
I
how
think
we
we could all
grow
do.
as people, because if you know you can have a comfort zone, and you know, sometimes we get pushed beyond that by some new things, but beyond that kind of initial sort of kind of extend out from your comfort zone, sometimes we're quite fearful of what's beyond that, but actually it's only by learning you can cope with other things.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, you can be put into those situations where initially you might feel really fearful and it might feel like it's a hugely uncomfortable experience.
Yeah.
But it's when you come out the other side, it builds your comfort zone.
Absolutely, yeah.
It extends it, and that's where resilience comes from. It comes from that extension of comfort zone. It comes with, yeah, that's all right. I managed that. And I think maybe when we come through a lot, you know, further down the COVID line and out towards the other side of it, there might be quite a few people that will come out of that and go, okay, that's like one of the biggest things that's ever happened in my life,
Absolutely, yeah.
been a huge test of resilience.
I
But
think
we're
people are,
all
yeah, I completely agree. I think people have come out quite strong from it, really, because it's definitely one of the biggest things we've ever been through, isn't it? So
yeah. I mean, I think there
brilliant.
are a lot of other kind of theories and things around, and I think one of the things always with it is about what resonates to you personally, because everyone's challenges are different. Everyone, people struggle with different things, and I think
Absolutely, yeah.
it's being open to looking at what people write about and talk about. I mean, mindfulness works for a
Yeah,
lot of people, and I've certainly called on that a lot myself these days.
yeah.
Sometimes I just get up and walk away from the laptop and I just go and look out one of the windows. I'm fortunate I've got a view over the channel at
Very
one
nice.
side, and no, I just stand there and it rests my eyes, which is good.
Yeah.
Also, just it's just one of those. Go have a look and see what the clouds are doing. Go
5 minutes of
look at,
peace, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You just need to have a mental breathing space sometimes.
absolutely, yeah.
I think one of the things that's around at the moment, the It's Okay To campaign that's kind of started in the uni. I think that's a really good phrase to hang on to. Sometimes it's okay just to take time out and go and stare out of a window.
Most definitely. I think yeah, especially in the sort of current climate as well. I think there's just so much
Yeah,
going on and there's access to so much information as well. And I think
yeah,
sometimes you do, like you said, just need 5 minutes away from it all, don't you? Just to stare out the window
yeah,
or go for a walk or
yeah,
just it's just meditation in a way, really, isn't it? It's like you said, it's sort of
yeah,
mindfulness as well as just taking 5 minutes away from it all, just to sort of
yeah,
rest your mind as well as your body, isn't it?
yeah. And I think like a lot of things, it's try things out for size. And if you think, well, something like meditation's not for you, that's fine. There may be
Absolutely, yeah.
something else. Yeah,
Completely agree with that. I think there's loads of different ways you can skin a cat, and like you said, it
yeah,
does. We're all different as human beings, so what
yeah,
works for one person might not work for the other. So you just got to
yeah.
be open to new ideas, really, and keep trying them until you find something that works for you.
And theories are fine, but as I said with Covey, sometimes there are other ways of looking at it. You can take the bare bones of something, like what he says about influencing, and you think, well, actually, in this circumstance, I can take that basic theory and look at it a different way and use it in a different way.
Absolutely, yeah. Adapt. You can adapt things, can't you, and sort of suit them to what you need, really.
It's the mark of a good theory.
Yeah.
I think
Brilliant.
you've answered that question so well
Yeah.
that this next question may not apply too much, but what
Okay.
would you consider to be the most important factor in maintaining good mental health and well-being?
Oh gosh. I I think I think to answer that, I think I'd go to probably a kind of sad memory in a way for me. My best friend unfortunately died in 2013. She had a long battle with breast cancer, and I can remember when she went through it the first time, and then she had an all clear, and then it came back, and when it came back the second time, the prognosis wasn't very good at all. And Gail was always a long-term planner. That was her thing. She, she liked the security of that. It was always that kind of optimistic look forward, and for her then her then to be told, look, this is not good this time. It was like the rug being pulled out from under her feet, and she was given the opportunity for counselling, which she did take. And one of the things that came out of it, and I mean, she talked a lot about it to me at the time, about what she was getting from it. And one of the things was he worked with her to reframe her vision and to reframe how she looked at life, really, and looked at things. And he said, if you invest everything in looking at the future or worrying about the future or being or being concerned about what's going to happen. He said, you'll miss today, and you'll miss what's happening in front of you, and you'll miss, getting the joy out of what you have right now at this time. And we went out one time for an evening out, her and I and a couple of friends, and we were having a drink before we went for a meal, and we were sitting chatting and laughing, and Gail grabbed my arm. She was sitting next to me, and she grabbed my arm and squeezed it, and I said, are you all right? And she said, I'm just taking a snapshot of this moment, and I just had to squeeze you to make it happen.
Lovely.
And what she meant was, what she'd done with his counsellor was this thing about storing memories, taking time to really think about what's happening and to really appreciate it. And out of incredibly sad circumstances, I learned a massive amount from that myself about how you look at things. And I think mindset is one of the most important things in mental health. I think how you see things. There's a lot at the moment about what we can't do. I can't go and see my family in Scotland. I haven't seen them for a very long time now. We can't go and meet friends. We can't go for a coffee with somebody, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And back to the COVID circles of concern, that's the can'ts of life. And I think a lot is that flipping it around to thinking, but what can I do?
Absolutely.
What can I do at this moment in time? What can I do right now that'll bring me a bit of joy? That'll I'll learn something. And I think we were a lot more into that in the first lockdown, and I know a lot of people have got fatigue around it now.
Yeah.
But especially at this time of year, I mean, I'm in a bubble with a family because I'm shielding, and I don't particularly want to go and sit in their garden in -10.
Yeah.
Lovely as it is to see them, they live right next to the channel. That wind is cold. I'm not, and that's hard. But I think, well, okay, what can I do instead? And I go back to all those times, in the pre-COVID world of complaining to myself that I haven't got time to sit and read a book on a Sunday afternoon or things like that. And I think, well, I can do now. I could do
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
For me, around mental health, certainly trying to look at another side, flipping around the thinking, instead of thinking and just bog down with the can't. One way certainly to challenge yourself around mental health. The main thing for me is that it's that self-awareness of where you're at. Tune in with yourself. And when you feel yourself overwhelmed or slipping into thinking which is bringing you down, it's it doesn't have to be big stuff. It can be small things. Small steps sometimes bring you big wins.
So we're not going to keep you much longer. I've just got one
That's
more
okay.
question for you. So it's sort of, again, these last few sort of time with each other, really, and you may have answered it already. But is there one piece of advice that you could give someone who was struggling? If it was any piece of advice, just one piece, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think always, if you feel you're struggling, is think about where you might be able to get support from. So never struggle on your own. Never feel you have to struggle on your own, because somewhere out there is support. There'll be somebody who will give an ear, who will give advice or can help you, maybe to find some grounding and to bring things back. But think about friends or family or how you might be able to reach out, and it doesn't have to be necessarily about unburdening yourself, but it might be that, just taking a walk around the block yourself, or if you can, just pick up the phone or Skype or FaceTime or whatever it is, and just make contact with somebody, hear someone else's voice, just speak, just have a good conversation, have a laugh, anything can pick you up. But if you do feel like you really are struggling, is think about where that support's going to be. There are people out there who will help, and don't feel you have to be on your own.
Brilliant. Definitely, yeah. I mean, reach out, and you're never a burden on anyone, are you? Really? So don't feel like you can't reach out to someone, like you said, to friends, family, colleagues, anyone really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I think I'm lucky. I do work in a team where we can be quite open with each other about things, and
Cool.
I've sometimes had weepy days, and I've sent a quick message to my manager and said, look, today's not a great day. I'm going to try and get done what I can do, but I might also go out for a walk for a little while. And she's going, yeah, that's fine, that's okay. And then she's called me, and she's called me later on to make sure I'm okay.
Just to check in, yeah.
Yeah. And I think one thing maybe from the times we've been in is, hopefully people are looking out for each other and being aware of people's circumstances, particularly, and trying to look out for one another. But you also have to be honest with yourself as well, and sometimes you have to go seek it too. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I think you're completely right there. I mean, people are busy, aren't they? And sometimes it's just that you may need to reach out to someone else, and they'll always be there for you. Like you said, that's the one sort of takeaway from sort of COVID-19 is that I think people have come together quite nicely as well, and they are starting to look out for each other and take care of each other. I think that's one of the sort of positive takeaways from it all.
Yeah, you kind of hope that moving forward that we'll remember that bit, and
absolutely,
yeah.
I hope we do.
Thank you so much, Alison. I think that was really informative, interesting, and insightful. I think a lot of people will take something from it. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Alison. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. I mean, a lot of things come from me, and come from the heart, really, instead of what I feel, how I found things when I work people. So I'm an expert by any means at all. In fact, I'm very far from it. But if it's been useful, I'm glad.
No, it really has, Alison. Yeah, we really appreciate that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to come on today.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alison.